third of estate agents think home staging is really important when it comes to selling houses. 1 in 10 homeowners think it's really important when it comes to selling houses, but I doubt less than 1% of homes in the UK actually get home staged. Today I'm joined by Elaine Penhaul, who is boss lady of Lemon and Lime Interiors.
Absolutely.
And she's here to talk about the power of home staging as part of the Voice of the Agent survey, where over 800 estate agents and 2,000 homeowners were interviewed. Elaine, given the high value of what vendors place on professional photography, how can estate agents innovate property presentation with home staging? With, quite frankly, I'm surprised that, estate agents think 33% of homeowners should have it and only consumers 10%, but only 1% actually go through with it. Why are the disparaging numbers?
I think it's a fascinating conversation in the UK at the moment, because staging of property before it goes onto the market is very, very normal in the United States and Australia, for example, and has been for a long time. What's interesting with estate agents and with homeowners believe that 71%, I think, of them want the professional photography and believe that it's essential. Estate agents similarly. However, if you send in a professional photographer with the cost that entails, and potentially a professional videographer, of which nearly 50% of properties are having video content as well now, those people, those professionals, can only take photographs or videos of what is actually in front of them. And if what's in front of them is the way that we normally live as a family, people normally live as a family, potentially an empty property, potentially a property that somebody has moved out of as part of a separation, or somebody has moved into a home, for example, then the property just isn't ready to be photographed or videoed. And without at least a consultation about the presentation with a professional beforehand and some help to get it looking right, then all of those services are slightly wasted.
Is there a negative perception of home staging in the UK?
I think it's interesting, and I wrote in my first book about the perception that staging was an American fad and it was going to go away, and it was false. And we do, as Brits, I think, have a real kind of anxiety about that. However, I really don't believe that tidying up, making the bed, putting the pots and pans in the dishwasher is a fad or is false. It's a courtesy to your buyers.
Not being in the photograph.
And not being in the photograph, in bed in the photograph, in the worst cases. It's a courtesy. And if you are doing the courtesy of tidying up beforehand, then buyers believe subliminally that actually you may also have looked after the property, that the roof probably doesn't leak, that there isn't damp or woodworm or any of the other hideous things that might have fallen through the net in terms of maintenance, because the property looks cared for. And I think it's a really strong subliminal message.
And you made that point as well, didn't you, that when somebody walks into a home, that feeling that you just get, it's got to be much more improved, hasn't it? If it's looking,
we also get what's the old thing, you get one chance to make a first impression.
Go,
right?
yeah.
So I've got a couple of questions, if I may, not to tread on Mr. Watkins' big toes.
I knew this would happen.
Here we go. I'm taking over already. First of all, so on behalf of all the agents that are watching this, is it just something for the top end of the market?
No, absolutely not. Every single home seller is selling what's probably their biggest capital asset. And why would they not, and why would their agent not want to help them maximise that?
But it's perceived as being a kind of Knight Frank Savile's, Kensington, Mayfair, Belgravia thing, isn't it?
I'm going to make a sweeping statement here for the home staging industry in the UK, is that you are truly appalling at getting your message across to estate agents. And I say that nicely and respectfully, but I'm not just you, just everyone, about proving that by home staging, not only will you sell more houses, but you'll get more houses on the market.
Thank you.
I said that, no, but I'm not pointing that at you.
No, absolutely not. And I wouldn't dream of it. You know that. Yes, we can prove that properties sell for more money more quickly when they have had the opportunity to have professional presentation or at least the consultation, so that in some cases the homeowner then takes away the report and does it themselves. Fantastic.
Okay.
We have tracked every single property that we have helped get on the market from the very beginning of the business. So about 10 years worth of data now. Because, as you know, I'm a mathematician by background. That's what I care about. I accept your point about we're not good as an industry about getting that data out there. Some of that is because the data is limited in amount.
But you can
because
prove on
it's
a
not
what, on a pounds per square foot
on a
basis.
pounds, well, on a pounds per square foot, where we're looking at a list price against what it's actually sold for. I think our data from last year, the properties that we were involved with last year, was 102% over guide in a difficult market last year, and our average time for first acceptable offer was 15 days against a national average that was, Paul will tell you, but significantly more than that.
And actually, Russell, Elaine, me and Elaine were talking off air, but this is perhaps something where we can add value and actually get some real data to help.
You could help demonstrate.
Yeah, because we
you're
are
always selling.
Yeah, so we can we can do a matching exercise to actually kind of look at this in more detail and kind of prove
Yeah, but
that.
then for the agent, it becomes a complete no-brainer, doesn't it? If you're going to get more for the property and attract more sellers, why wouldn't you do it?
That's really interesting, and going back to the range of properties, as a business we target the top end. However, just like there are estate agents for the top end of the market, there are also people staging for 2-bed terraces in Bradford, for example, you know, the end of the market that you wouldn't perhaps consider as the premium market. So I think that's an interesting thing. I think that the no-brainer aspect, intellectually it's a no-brainer aspect. However, it has a cost up front, and in the same way that a marketing, professional photography or videography, where agents are charging for professional marketing up front, then that is often the barrier.
But if the data supports the fact, Mr. Vendor, that you're going to get 5% more for your property, which is, let's say, £10,000, and this exercise is going to cost you £5, you can demonstrate it through data, then it's absolutely a no-brainer, isn't it? Why would the owner not then pay up front?
Well, because they may not have the budget. And that becomes the problem, because staging is a very, very capital heavy business and a very resource heavy business to run. And at the moment, because of the level of investment in this country in the staging industry, which is almost non-existent, we're lucky, we've got some, but it's almost non-existent, that right now, most staging businesses can't afford to do a similar model to the estate agents. In other words, pay on completion of the property, because we're capitalising, you know, in our case, 50 or 60 grand's worth of furniture going into a property at the front end. So there's there's kind of budget.
And also only 1 in 4 properties over £1 million, which is the top end, does actually exchange and complete. Simon?
Yeah, I think just to emphasise what Elaine's saying, because we did some research with Lemon and Lime in time for Valentine's Day, in terms of, and we use the term love at first sight. Does love at first sight matter when you walk into a property? And it was staggering. So there's 3 points of data that come out and say that this is literally a no-brainer. There's the fact that the consumers are going, yes, when I walk into a house, love at first sight massively makes a difference to whether or not I buy it or not. Because the question is, did it make a difference of deciding to buy or not?
It's head and heart, right?
Absolutely head and heart. And only 1 in 20 people say it's not at all important. So only 1 in 20 people say that.
Yeah.
The second one is 1 in 10 people say not that they want home staging to be offered, they need, as in N-E-E-D, need home staging to be offered. That is way bigger than the current market. And then you have what Elaine says, all the hard data of the 10 years she's got shows that actually it will sell higher, it will sell faster, and therefore with these 3 data points, why wouldn't you do it? And I point out that question about love at first sight. So regardless of demography, doesn't matter how wealthy they are, where they are in the country, it moves around a little bit. But in reality, if you're in a relatively modest 2-bedroom house somewhere, or you're in a £25 million mansion of some sort, you want your property to be staged to maximise its value.
Chris, can I venture a real world example if I've got time? And any agent watching this will relate to this. Someone comes in and registers on the mailing list. Do they still do that, by the way? maybe some applicants still do, and they say, I'm looking for this type of property, must be a 3-bed, must be an end terrace or a semi, must be in this particular area. You ring them up 2 weeks later and say, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, are you still looking? No, we bought something. Oh, right, what did you buy? Did you buy that 3-bed semi in such and such an area? How many times does it happen where they say, actually, we bought a little cottage 25 miles away that's nothing like what they said they wanted. Why? Because they've walked in and their heart took over and they bought with their heart, not their head. That happens a lot.
Elaine,
which is why staging is important.
Elaine, you mentioned no-brainer, which I thought was a segue through to me. And as a fellow mathematician, I'm not basing this on any actual statistics, but I have been lucky enough to spend a lot of time in Australia and to a lesser degree America.
Not long enough.
They don't send them over there anymore, and without a shadow of a doubt, that you know, there are agents in both that I've met there that simply won't take them on unless they're going to take home staging. So the link between being able to charge more and also that point about it not just being in that prime or you know, or even super prime end of the marketplace is. Now, they always talk about, you know, agents over here get very pissed off that, you know, agents in Australia are lecturing them and they've got this fantastic vendor paid advertising. Yeah, well, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, is it? Is that ability to stage to be able to justify it? And I think this, again, in terms of we're tying together different strands of this voice of the agent on page 36, if it still stays like this, you've got the whole point about agent fee versus house price. So from what I can see here, it starts going up from 750 to £1 million, starts rising from an average 1.2% to 1.4 steadily all the way to 5 million plus with 2.5% fee. Now, there's no reason why that percentage should be increasing unless you start looking at some of the differences that are taking place. Home staging has to be a factor in that.
It's the added value.
Has to be.
It's absolutely the added value. And the agents that we work with, that we've worked with from the early stages of the business, don't even question whether they're going to talk about staging or the presentation of a property to their sellers. It's just part of what they do.
Is that because they're
justifies
better
the
estate
fees.
agents? Because let's be honest, the homogenised rump of estate agents is, you know, fees have gone down from an average of 1.6 15 years ago to around 1% now. I know the report says 1.3, so obviously you're dealing with better estate agents here. But, you know, other surveys have suggested 1%. Is it because we're not very good at training ourselves and developing ourselves of actually proving our worth as estate agents?
Difficult to bounce back when you've had the race to the bottom, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the estate agents that we work with and that we are aware of that habitually will use or recommend staging, I can't think of any of them that will be less than 1.5%. And that's not because they're all working in the upper end of the market. It's simply because they're agents who understand the value add that they can bring, not just with staging, but with the way that they sell property.
And therefore they can justify their higher fee
and they
better.
can justify their higher fee, absolutely.
I mean, this is all actually about the self-interest of the agent, because the worst thing that can happen to an agent is they take on an instruction, do some work, and it doesn't sell, because there's no money to be had at that point. That's a disaster.
And remember, in 2023, out of every 100 properties that came on the market, 47 didn't sell.
So that's 47% of opportunities where you've not earned any money. On the other side, if it does sell, the second worst thing can happen is it takes an incredibly long time and you get far less than the asking price. Therefore, you earn less commission. Now, even if you don't want to pay for a professional to come in and do it, some of these professionals have written books that help people on how to do it. And actually, if you just read the book, you could actually help someone by saying, just do these things. You want to sell your house faster for a higher price. I'm not going to charge you anything because I know money's tight at the moment. But if you do this, we both win. It's literally a win-win equation. Now, if you can pay for a professional, I would always pay an expert to do something, especially if it was running your marketing. I would always pay an expert to run your marketing.
You would say that, though.
I would say that, slightly biased. But if you can afford a professional, the ROI is fantastic. I've seen the data. If you can't, you can do it yourself, but you can help your client do it for themselves.
Final question, Elaine. AI staging versus real staging.
AI staging or virtual staging, because AI staging is a different thing and not yet very sophisticated, but the virtual staging version is absolutely great in its place. So Paul and I were speaking earlier that for off-plan, for developers, for empty properties that haven't yet come to practical completion, it has its place for the off-plan marketing. Once something exists in real life, going back to the point about people walking into a property, they need to fall in love with it. The staging needs to be real and it needs to be in place.
Thank you for your time, everyone, today. Thank you.
Thank you.